Hello, everybody. This is Avish Pardashar from your Virtual Humor Coach. And what I'm going to do today is something interesting. I'm actually going to analyze a couple of stories and give feedback. Now, in this case, I'm giving feedback to myself because I'm using my own stories. But basically, this is how I would do the virtual humor coaching, is I would take your video and then give you feedback here. So I'm doing this for two reasons. Number one is so that you can see how the virtual humor coaching would work. And number two, even if you have no intention of ever signing up for the humor coaching, you can still learn from the analysis that I'm going to do of myself, because there are tips and techniques I'm going to point out. So it's like watching a live demonstration of someone receiving feedback. So this is an actual recording of a speech I did live. There were about 600 people in the audience. This was a couple of years ago. And there are actually two little bits. The first is a 1 minute or so story that I don't tell very often, and it kind of shows because there's a lot of polish looking at it now that I'm going to add to it. The second story is one I tell quite a bit. That's going to be a little bit harder to analyze because I have worked it, but I've come up with quite a few things, both for myself to work on, that you can learn from me observing it. So what I've done on this page is I put this entire clip up. You can watch it straight through if you'd like, because I'm going to be showing you parts of the clip here and pausing it and then starting it and then talking about ways I could improve. And to give you just a little bit of context, right now what I'm doing is talking about the importance of saying yes and instead of saying yes but or no. And so this first story goes into that. So let's do this, and I'm going to pause it and give myself feedback that you can learn from as we go.
Right? You'll see this in a restaurant. I was in a Fridays with some friends. Don't ask me why. We were in a mall in the suburbs. But we're eating out of Fridays. And we're sitting there.
Okay, right there, from a humor perspective, I started out saying, I was in a Fridays. Don't ask me why. I was in the suburbs. And I kind of glossed over it, and I got a little chuckle out of that. But looking back, looking at myself objectively a year or two later now, that is a great moment of what I call an opportunity where I could have mined it more. There's a whole lot of humor that can go into that. The fact that I'm going to this chain restaurant in the suburbs. Now, there's no problem with that. I do that a lot. But for humor's sake, I do this little throwaway half joke, and I find a lot of people do that in their speaking, is you'll throw a little half joke out. In that case, I really should have dug deeper. I should have made more jokes about why I wanted to go to a Fridays or why I was in the suburbs. Using some of the creative brainstorming stuff we're going to talk about. And you may find that in your presentations as well. And notice this when you watch other people. They'll say one joke, kind of a half-assed joke, and then move on. If you're going to do it all the way. Be committed, like I said in the last video. And there would have been a lot of opportunities for humor there with just a little bit of brainstorming. And some of the techniques we're going to talk about, like, oddly enough, saying yes and. So let's continue.
The food comes out, and one person didn't get what they ordered exactly right. Like, they didn't want cheese on their burger.
All right, now here's another little problem, is that I didn't really set the stage up well. I said we're in the suburbs on a Fridays, and I move right to the waiter coming in. Now, you don't want to go too long with setups, but looking back on this now, I feel I went too quickly into the crux of the story. Just a little bit of setup, like, we're in Fridays, and we're sitting there, and we're having a good time, and I should have probably have gotten to the waiter taking our order. That would introduce the waiter, give me a little opportunity for some humor and an act out. Because this waiter was weird, and I've seen him a couple times at two different restaurants, which is really odd. But he was kind of an odd fellow, and I could have mined a little bit of humor, both from acting him out up front, and also from talking about the setup of, like, I knew something was going to be a problem.
So we say to the waiter, excuse me, I didn't order cheese on my burger. This guy, right in a sec, I'm sorry, I'll fix that, says, nah, wait. Yeah, you ordered the cheeseburger, pulls out his little pad as this.
Now, this is an example of an act out. So what I did there was I acted out the waiter, and to be honest, I probably didn't go fully enough. I think there's an opportunity there for a lot of humor. Now, I'm a humorist, so I can get away with big characterizations, and looking back on this, I probably should have. If you were doing this speech and humor is not your primary thing, maybe that level of characterization would have been good. But notice what I did, and this is a mistake looking back on it that I would change, is I do the characterization for about one sentence, and then I go right back into describing the story. It would have been much better for me to have stayed in the character, doing this absurd act of pointing out to us how we were wrong in what we ordered, not how he was wrong in what he took.
To show us that since he wrote it down, that's what we ordered. You can't make this up. This is what people do. They're so in their yes, but heads.
Okay, and looking back on that, even though I did come out of the character, when I didn't play it big enough. Let me see if I can roll this back just a touch.
That's
take a
what
look
we
here.
ordered. You can't make this up. This is what people do. He wrote it down. That's what we had, as if to show us that since he wrote it down, that's what we ordered.
Okay, right there where I say he wrote it down and I'm showing the pad. My emotion there, I talk a lot about emotions in this program when I talk about how you can bring out humor. Now, my mentality or emotion, whatever you want to call it there, is really incredulous, right? To me, it was just shocking in that moment that someone, a waiter, would actually tell me that I misremembered what I ordered and then show me his pad as if his pad was the end-all be-all. Now, I get a little bit of that. You can see it in my eyes even on this still. But if I really want to play it for humor, I should have made my voice, my body language, everything much bigger in terms of like how ridiculous this entire situation was. So I think the overall with this story, I'm going to move on to the next one, but the overall points with this story is that I don't think I went far enough, and this is something you're going to find in a lot of your humor. So I could have dug a little deeper on the opening, joking about eating out in the suburbs. There were some opportunities for act-outs I could have made bigger, and this emotion could have been bigger. And in fact, when I talk about digging deeper, again, this is another great moment where I could dig deeper. So I'm incredulous here that he did that. I could do some brainstorming. I could come up with a lot of jokes or lines. Now, again, we're not into writing jokes, but I could refer to things like, oh my God, I can't believe he was doing this. I mean, it'd be like if I went to blah, blah, blah. And, I could really start ranting about it, which is part of my humor. So looking back, this is not a bad story, but I think from where it is in this video, there's a lot of cultivation that could be done, digging things deeper, adding more emotion, and a little more character to really make it rich. So now I'm going to skip ahead.
You can't make this to customers, internal or external. Catch yourself when you start saying that yes,
to
but.
a second story.
You want to improve that rapport and that relationship. Now, the real reason I love the yes, but
See,
versus
now I'm
yes,
moving
and
into, I'm talking about this yes and principle.
is how much it applies to our own personal
Now,
development.
I give one point about customer service. Now I'm moving into
We
personal
yes,
development.
but ourselves more than we yes, but anyone else.
And this is something
Right, I should go to
that
the
I'm about
gym.
to tell.
Yeah, but I'm tired.
that I consider one of my signature stories. I tell this story a lot, and if you've seen my stuff before,